country, no power lines, no dead-end streets. Mother Nature waits for me back in the North country.
All right, welcome everybody. I am Sealy Dave. Thanks for joining us on our Northwoods Ramble, a video podcast about exploring the upper Midwest by bicycle. On this show, we'll review regional bikepacking routes, some of the gear we like, as well as keep you up to date on the gravel and mountain bike scene in the upper Midwest. That includes the Minnesota Iron Range, the UP, and of course, Wisconsin. We'll share some of our area history, culture, and a little bit of Northwoods know-how. For those of you who are joining us by listening only, we are doing this as a video podcast that you can watch on Spotify or our Life Above 8 YouTube channel. And those are all going to be linked in the show notes. As I said, I'm your Hyperburner reporter, Sealy Dave. This is my co-conspirator, TJ, and we're coming to you today from my little log cabin office at the base of the Hollywood Hills, just outside bustling downtown Sealy, Wisconsin. Sealy's located on the Namakagon River at the southern edge of the Chequamegon National Forest, near the Campbell mountain bike trails, the Berkey ski trails, and we're surrounded also by just countless miles, hundreds of miles of forest road and gravel and logging roads. Sealy is an unincorporated town on the banks of the pristine Namakagon River, and we're on Highway 63, right where it tees with Highway 00 in the heart of Wisconsin, Northwoods. The river, the Namakagon River, parallels Highway 63 and also an old railroad line. And we're midway between the town of Cable, another old railroad town, and Hayward, the famous lumber mill town, 10 miles to our south and 10 miles to our north. Nobody seems to know exactly what Sealy was named after. Most people suspect it was somebody that worked for the railroad when they built this town. And those railroad folks of you that are into that thing will know that towns tended to be spaced 7 to 10 miles or so every once in a while, just so the old steam engines had, that's about when they ran out of water. So there had to be a water station about every 10 miles or so. Anyway, so you may have noticed that our intro was a lot of snow, and we do have a long winter here. It's at least 6 solid months of winter. We absolutely love it with all of our great ski trails and groomed fat bike trails and that sort of stuff that we have here. There's also, snowboarding and downhill skiing up on the North Shore or South Shore by Duluth and Superior, as well as over in the UP area. So we've got winter in spades, 6 solid months of it. It started snowing October 15th last year, and we had snow. I was skiing into April after Easter, and I know other people that skied even later. It's the end of May, maybe it's June when you're listening to this or watching this, I just got back last weekend from a gravel bike ride over by Mercer, and we actually found a bunch of snow in Mercer, and this is us kicking the snowbank. The last snowbank we found last weekend. So we are in spring, and I do love that we're in spring, but winter is such a long part of our lives here that I just wanted to open with a bunch of slides from winter. So. I was saying to you earlier that I think winter seems to move at this sort of glacial pace where the only way you can tell the difference is how much deeper the snow is getting on your roof and if you've got to shovel it.
For sure.
Of course, we enjoy all that, and there are no bugs for 6 months a year at least. Guaranteed. Right. So we enjoy that and the amazing skiing that we have on the Berkey trails and the North End ski trails and the Sealy trails and the Rock Lake trails and everything else, and the great fat biking that Canva grooms. And I groom 5 miles on the neighborhood trails behind my house too. So winter's awesome, but we love spring, and I'm really excited about it. Every time I go out, it seems like it's the opposite of winter. Spring moves at such a fast pace. All the wildflowers that are constantly changing, the animals that are all having babies and stuff like that. It's hard, almost hard to keep up.
It is hard to keep up, and it's hard to keep up on the grass. I've been mowing on the Berkey Trail, and I mow it, and it grows right behind me as I'm mowing. And yeah, you never know what's going to pop around the next corner, right?
Right.
Like things are just growing, things you haven't seen growing, and yeah.
I'll show a few slides of some of our spring that we've got here. So the wildflowers are coming up, and those come up in stages too. I notice, like, I use this picture this plant identifying app on my phone I don't know the flowers that well, and there's so many of them. But I save them all to my plant library in the app. And what I like is it kind of gives me a phenology of when I see them each time because something new pops up. So right now we're kind of in the forget-me-nots. And violets are out, and some this one pussy toes, an everlasting.
Yeah, that's a new one for me.
Yeah, it was a new one for me. So that one's up, and of course, as the animals, the deer are dropping fawns. This photograph I took today on my way back from Cable. I was stopping at Rondo with something, and Cowboy and I, my dog Cowboy, we take the long route back on Cable Sunset Road rather than the highway because he likes to watch for deer. Yep. And so we saw a doe walking across the road just ahead of us with a tiny, tiny fawn. And it went into the woods, and it was just around the corner when I came around the corner. So I knew the doe was going to go into the woods, and the fawn was just going to duck down into the grass like they do. So I pulled over and walked up, and it was right there at the edge of Cable Sunset. So I was able to get a nice photo of the doe's eyelashes in the grass, and then I left it alone. And Mom, I'm sure, came back and rounded him up. And but the bear cubs are out. We've had bear in our backyard. Our dogs treed one the other day. Not this one. This one was somewhere else. But
yeah, we woke up to a bear at our picture window this morning at about 5:30, which was pretty cool.
Let's jump to that. There's your bear, right?
Yeah. Was there long enough for me to get the phone and take a picture?
Picture window. Do you have like a hummingbird feeder or something?
We do.
Hummingbird feeder?
We do.
Was it out?
It was not out because, it wasn't out yet. But yeah.
And everybody knows you're supposed to take your bird feeders out to put them away at night at the very least. But honestly, you probably just shouldn't have them during the regular seed because the bears come to the seed on the ground that they all toss. But black bears aren't really harmful anyway. You just don't want to train them to go by humans.
And this spring, this time of spring, everything's on the move, right?
Yeah.
Everything's just moving around.
The fox kits, we've got a couple of dens right on the trails that I maintain behind our house, and every year we get a litter of like 3. There's 3 in this den. I only often there's like kind of a pecking order, it seems like, of one really brave one, another one will come out and wait, and then the last one doesn't come out hardly ever. But this little guy was out, yeah. So that spring is just awesome here. So I'm super happy to have it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's the beauty of living in the Northwoods, right? We get 4 very distinct seasons, especially winter.
Yes. Yeah, winter. So the folks that also don't know where Sealy is, other than our geographic location, between Cable and Hayward, an hour south of Duluth or whatever, may not realize that Sigurd Olson is buried here right in the cemetery, the Riverview Cemetery, right just down next to the Sawmill Saloon in Sealy. And Sigurd Olson, always famous for his writings about the Boundary Waters and his place up at Listening Point. I think you can actually go visit it now or something like that. Yep. He went to Northland College in Ashland, which is even then in the early 1900s was known for conservation. He was going to school for that. And he met one of the Earnholt family from Sealy. Andrew Earnholt was Soren Earnholt's son, who was going to college at Northland College, and invited Sigurd Olson back to their family farm here in Sealy to to for Christmas because Sigurd wasn't from Wisconsin. So Sigurd came. He really enjoyed spending time with the family and the farm, and he ended up meeting Elizabeth Ernholt and ended up marrying her. And for those that don't know, I'll give you a little walking tour here of the. Oops, I got to back up. So there's Sigurd and Elizabeth. And then this is the Ernholt family plot at the Riverview Cemetery, just down along the riverbanks in Sealy. And you'll see the family and the two sons were both killed in the war. It was just Memorial Day, so flags are up. Right. And then around just behind that is where the Olsons are, and Sigurd and Elizabeth, then Ernholt. So they're buried right here, and I've read all of his books pretty much, and I kind of like reread them actually sometimes. But
the Ernholts were kind of the first family of conservation in America, which is a really cool
forestry conservation, right? Yeah. Right. He moved here in late 1890 something from Denmark, and then as all those other European farmers were being come over to America and buy cut over logging land in northern Wisconsin and northern Minnesota, and so all these sort of like Scandinavian farmers came over here, and Germans and tried to start farms, and found out although the land was cheap.
It's cheap for a reason.
It was cheap for a reason. Even if you can pull all those stumps, which the amazing work they did to clear those stumps and all the the slashings that were left over by the loggers, the short season and the sandy soil was just very difficult to farm. Ernholtz though did manage to make a living, scrape by, but found that some of their land wasn't good for farming, so he started replanting trees. And I think there was a Danish, I forget there was a Danish conservation that he was sort of following that said something about like wherever you can't plant a potato, you should plant a tree or something like that. Something like that. There's some quote that Ernholt was famous for repeating. So that's kind of Sealy. There's so much more that I have to share about Sealy. I love our tiny little town and all of our cool little history and all of our residents, and especially we'll get back to our Sawmill Saloon. That's just down the road at the intersection that most people maybe are familiar with. Great food, great fish fries, great prime rib, great burgers, all that sort of stuff. My wife, though, sometimes calls it this, and she loves it maybe more than I do. But that's why she calls it the saloon of bad decisions, where their delicious old fashions are served with a few dashes of regret. And you can get a latte, but it's going to come in a cold 12-ounce can.
Yeah, it was about a year ago about this time that I had a pretty good time there with you.
Oh, yeah, one of the karaoke nights.
Yeah, I had to definitely apologize to a few people after that. But
I'm sorry I missed that. But that was one of the nights that I had gone on, had enough, and the sawmill's like 0.8 of a mile from where we live, but I couldn't do it. So I went home and I skipped karaoke. I'm not a good singer, so I skipped karaoke, but you and Liz and
we did it.
You kept going.
We did it.
So I just got back, speaking of spring, I just got back from a gravel ride over by Mercer that a friend of mine organizes, Andy Schwartz, whose son is now a professional mountain biker. Caleb Schwartz. His daughter, Emma Schwartz, was also a very accomplished bike racer. Both Emma and Caleb raced cyclocross nationals and worlds as juniors. So I don't think Emma races anymore, but Caleb is full on still a pro racer.
There's some genetics going on.
Yeah,
there's some genetics.
So Andy organizes, he's from Madison area, and but has had a cabin in Mercer for a long time. So he's organized this gravel event with some other friends from Phillips and in Milwaukee, and so I went on the trip, and and it's called Spring Gravel in Paradise. And Andy likes to include a bunch of bushwhacking, sort of like those, avoid highways at all costs and make connections with some of the unused snowmobile trails that do make a connection, but are not necessarily rideable. And John from Phillips, John Kidzera, who comes along, he's also known Johnny Cycles Frame Building. He builds really nice bikes out of Phillips, Wisconsin, but they're low trail, like front bag Rene Hurst style touring bikes, and they all have like really nice built-in fenders and wires for generators and
Class for days.
Right.
Class for days.
Right. But they were all riding those with like, 2-inch slick tires and doing just fine. John's a strong rider. So, but there was a lot of this, which led to a lot of that. And then a lot of muddy shoes. I was warned to bring an extra pair of socks on this trip, which I thought was a little nannying. I've not my first rodeo, but I did bring an extra pair of socks, but I was the only one that certainly didn't need them because I'm the only one that rides in Thorogood work boots.
Right.
Made down the road in Merrill, Wisconsin. We found some cool things though. I love exploring all those little back roads and trails because you find stuff that you didn't know.
Absolutely.
And so we ran across this old rusty school bus, which I thought there has to be like a cool story behind of like the year the 15 Ironwood kids never made it home from school for Christmas or something like that. I think there's probably a good story in that. Ran through the town of Fleury.
Don't know that one.
I had never been there before either. I'm not sure it's real or if it's the Fleury family. This was cool though. This is Shays Dam. And, a lot of times when you're planning these Northwoods routes and stuff like that, if you're looking on the maps and things, you don't know. It says roads don't go through and there's a dam there that you might want to see. But you don't know if the road's going to go through. And I found out that this, even though Google Maps and Ride with GPS and all the other maps show that this does not go through, it actually does go through to Shays Mill Road on the other side. So it's a great little connector that I'll sort of like store away in the back of my head for planning future routes over. Yeah, here you go. You can see there's the dam and it doesn't look like it connects, but it does in fact connect. You can go across the dam and connect to Shays Mill Road. So that was pretty fun. The other thing that's been fun this spring is bike rafting, and I know you've got a pack raft. So I took over a couple of years ago running the Hungry Bear Gravel Race. It's a gravel race that started by Tim Kruger of Esker Cycles and Mick and Beth Endersby of the River's Eatery Pizza Place up in Cable, and it's gone on it's an old school race. No aid stations, no support, no
Classic
prizes.
Gravel.
Right.
Classic
There's timing, but it's marginal at best, and it's not accurate. And
it's a family reunion on gravel.
Exactly. It really has more of a vibe of a family reunion than a gravel race. Of course, there are some guys that show up, some people that show up. One woman went off course, rode 120 miles anyway. She came back all stoked about it, and the top finishers finish in 5 hours, so they're riding 20 plus miles an hour on 100 miles of really hilly gravel. So anyway, I took over that race when Tim got too busy with Esker's Cycles, and Mick sold the River's Eatery to the Parker family. Still a great pizza place. You've got to go there for their stone-fired pizza in Cable. And it's a really cool silent sports environment with bibs and bikes and skis everywhere.
The clubhouse, right?
Yeah. Delicious food too. Great craft beer on tap. So, but I took over the event just to keep it going until we could find somebody else that really wanted it. And so the event has always given all the profits back to the community. So I continued in that vein. I gave, $3,000 to the Cable Volunteer Fire Department, but I grew the event over the last couple of years that I've done it. Maybe I'm a little bit better communicator than Tim was about it, or maybe it's because I'm retired and I don't have anything else to do. We'll say that.
That's nice.
But I doubled the race size. It went from 250, 280 people to 500 plus people. So I had a lot more money to give away this year than in years past. And so one of the things I did with that was I I've purchased a bike packing gear lending library. So a community library. So anybody that lives in our community can borrow some of this expensive bike packing gear for free and try bike packing out. I mean, a full set of stuff is like $1,500 or something like that.
Right.
You get the tent and everything. So I've got some of it here. So I got some of these Big Agnes UL2 copper spur bike packing tents with like the short sticks. So this like, you can hang this right on your handlebar if you want. I've got Relevate Designs 14-liter seat pack. So you can, the bags comes way out. It stuffs a lot of stuff and they're real stable. I've got a Salsa Anything cradle, which mounts to the handlebars as well. So you could stuff that tent in there. You could stuff the, I've got some 50-degree, really light compressible, but very nice and enlightened equipment quilts.
Yep.
They're just made over the border in Minnesota. And I got the, little tiny Exped, but comfy air mattresses and little pillows and some stoves and all the other stuff. So people can just borrow that.
Oh, super cool.
If they want,
people are gonna. Yeah, that's so
right.
good. So
now
good.
I ran out of cash. I'm hoping to use a few more of next year's. So I've got 5 sets of that. So anybody that wants to borrow that from the Cable area, Hayward area, community is welcome to borrow that for free. If you're coming from out of town and you just want to try bike packing, you can borrow it as well, and we can work out some sort of deal. I won't charge a lot of money, but there'll have be some sort of deposit because you're from out of town or something like that. But we can do that. But people are welcome to borrow that gear and give bike packing a try. We've got so many great routes up here, many of which I've sort of curated. But I mean, you can just point your bike down a gravel road and there's lots of campgrounds. You can just go anywhere you want, basically.
Pretty family friendly too around here, or
there's lots of taverns and stuff where you can eat. You really almost don't even have to bring food if you stop in and plan your trip right. So the one other thing that I purchased in the lending library that I'm really excited about is an alpaca caribou pack raft. And this is the bike rafting specific, the one with the late rise bow, the later design. I don't know.
I've got an OG. I got an OG one.
Yeah. Those work fine too.
Yeah.
That's what everybody started with. So, so this one is designed for that. So it's got the one end, the bow that I've got this bike strap to is up a little bit higher. And it's got tie downs that are really easy to use. But so this thing takes like 15 minutes to go from mounted on my handlebar like that to in the water.
Yep.
It's like ridiculously quick. And it weighs like 6 pounds all in.
Yep.
And so the last trip I did, I rode up to Cable and put in at Felipe Landing at 9 miles ride and a 9-mile paddle back. It was kind of weird. It's like exactly even.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's pretty sweet. These things, I don't know, you've paddled with them. You did it a bunch with your daughter, Anne-Marie.
Yeah. I even did I hit it right one year and I did a Berkey. I did the Berkey did a full Berkey with the raft on my back, put in
and the snow on the ground.
So
you skied the 50K Berkey.
Up, got the pack raft out right on the Namakagon.
Because the Namakagon goes right past Telemark Lodge, for those who don't know. And pack rafted down in the winter.
And then pack rafted back to Sealy. I didn't go all the way to Hayward. But yeah.
Well, I'm not that good of a skier yet, but you and I will have to do a winter ski like that.
Well, I hadn't skied with anything on my back forever.
Yeah.
Weird. It's weird, but so fun.
Right,
so
and
fun.
they don't weigh anything.
No.
So really, it isn't that so much. But so I'm pretty excited that I'm hoping that with the profits from the 2024 Hungry Bear that I'll be able to purchase one more pack raft, so it'll be 2. Because I mean, anybody can borrow this pack raft too, but then you're just going by yourself, which is nice. Right. But a lot of people might want to do things together. So I hope to get one more pack raft and just fill out the bike packing gear with just like some fork bags and some handlebar feed bags and stuff like that, and just fill it out just a little bit more than it is. But honestly, right now, with what I've got, anybody could come and could borrow gear and go and have a great time bike
so
packing.
cool.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
So I'm pretty stoked about that. I was also really stoked about finding a new waterfall. So, so for those that don't know, one of the routes that I've created is called the Wisconsin Waterfall Route, bikepacking route, and it's most of my routes are on bikepacking.com, and this
Award winning. I'm sorry.
Thanks. Yes, this one did win best of the year for week-long U.S. some niche category of bike for the 5 dweebs that really care about such things. But the nice thing about that is that bikepacking.com website is amazing, and it is so well done, and it has so many resources, and is such a worldwide reach that that and the Tour de Schwamigen route and my Valhalla Beach Party route are all, I'm hearing all the time about people riding them.
Yeah, so I was joking with you earlier about Cable built you a parking lot. Because there's every time I'm leaving work from Friday night or Saturday, especially this time of year, there's always people pulling out of there going.
So the waterfall route is 380 miles. It goes up into the UP. It goes all the way up, to Lake Superior. I mean, you could start it from any town on that route. But I live here, and the town of Cable has this really great municipal parking lot that anybody can park in without a permit anytime. It fits like 88 cars or something like that. Right. There's a bathroom with water that can fill water bottles up and stuff like that there. So it's just an amazing base camp for leaving for multi-day trips.
Right. And if you probably left your car unlocked with your wallet on the seat, you're probably okay.
Right.
Not telling you to do that, but
right. Plus, Cable, if you're starting in a Northwoods community, I mean, Cable's got Velo Cafe, it's got, the Rivers Eatery, it's got the Cable Cafe, it's got Rondo's grocery store and hardware store, so you can, if you forgot something and you're leaving from Cable, you're going to be able to find it there.
And if you don't find it there,
you didn't need it.
You got it.
But so a lot of my routes that I publish start and end in Cable, and the waterfall one included, and it goes by 28 waterfalls in the 380 miles. And I just found another waterfall that's right on the route. It's right by Morgan Falls, by St. Peter's Dome, down from Bob's Rock, the Swedish settlement. Anybody that knows all those local landmarks. So this is the waterfall. It's on Morgan. I mean, it's on the Marengo River, and the Marengo River we go by all the time on the Hungry Bear route, right? So I just had the Hungry Bear route. That was like May 13th. So I was on the route all the time, checking when the snow was melted.
Right.
And assuring the riders that they wouldn't need to bring their fat bikes with studded tires.
Stopping the panic.
Right. And I kept looking at the Marengo, and I knew I just got this pack raft. So I was like, oh, that river looks awesome. I'm going to bike raft down the right up here and float the Marengo. So just before I went, I Googled it and said, paddle the Marengo River. And I got warning, class 4 rapids, 40-foot waterfall. And I was like, well, I'm glad I didn't just drop in off Snake Trail Road and start floating. Glad I did a little research. So this is the waterfall that I found. It's unnamed. It's hard to get to. And it's a vertical video. Apologies. TJ and I now know after our first show on Northwoods Ramble, we will always do horizontal videos if we're going to use something on this show. But here you can just watch this. So that's where I was pictured. And it comes down through these rocks where there was this old quarry road that leads to mine that rock. And it goes through all this rock. And then right at the end there, it drops down another 40 feet or so.
Super cool.
But the road from the quarry comes up to the top of the falls there. So, and I had to cross the Marengo River on rocks. A bridge is out that used to go to the quarry, but you can kind of get across. I used my fat bike to, hold myself while I walked on rocks to get across the river. I didn't have to pack raft it. It's not that wide of a river. And then I rode this bushwhacked in lots of downed trees because it hasn't been used in
forever.
Yeah, 50 years or something. I don't know. But I made it to the falls and found them, but now I'm at the top. And it's rock cliff 40 feet down, and I would love to get to the bottom, but the road doesn't go to the bottom. There is another road that leads to the river closer to the lower end. So I thought about, well, maybe there'd be a way to bike in on that lower road and then pack raft to the base of the falls, where maybe from the base of the falls, you could kind of get a better view of looking up and see, is there a way to scramble up and get to the top and maybe make it a loop up to that quarry road. I don't know. It was very buggy out and stuff, so I wasn't.
Right.
I was lots of spraying, but I was trying to keep moving as much as I was enjoying finding that waterfall. So those are sort of the things I've been up to. What have you been up to lately, TJ? I know you got Epic Fest coming up.
Epic Fest coming up. I've been mowing a lot, and then
The Berkey Trail.
Yeah.
I don't know if we said you work for the American Birkebeiner Ski Foundation.
I do. Yeah.
TJ does lots of things, a lot of the grooming of the ski trails in the winter, but lots of tree cutting but what I'm kind of excited about, what we're going to try to keep you up to date with on this Northwoods Ramble as progress is continually being made, is the new mountain bike park at
Telemark Village.
Mount Telemark Village, yeah.
Trek trails powered by OTM at Telemark Village.
And OTM is
One Track Mind.
One Track Mind.
Yeah, so
it's a Minnesota-based foundation that promotes like healthy activities and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, and this will be, I think, their first try at Wisconsin. So it'll be really exciting. Really exciting.
Trek Foundation jumped in with a bunch of money to kickstart the
and
kickstart the trails.
Joe Vadamoncourt is the master at that stuff, getting all those.
Joe just called me today. I've known Joe for a long time. He actually convinced me to move up here. That's another story. But Joe V, as he's finally called, worked at Trek for 20 plus years. He was one of the most senior people at Trek, and a lot of mountain bike development. So Joe was a strong enduro rider, motocross rider,
gravity guy.
He also ran like the race team, and the Lance Armstrong days and everything like that, and the mountain bike race team as well. So Joe is, and he's a strong rider. So Joe's kind of like a double type A. He's a very nice guy, super nice guy, but he gets things done. He's got big visions. He just jumps in head first.
Right.
Trek trails probably wouldn't be called Trek trails if it weren't for the fact that Joe V was working with the Berkey Ski Foundation.
Right. This whole thing has been a conspiracy, I think, from the get-go of Joe.
A nice conspiracy.
A great conspiracy for us all. But yeah, a way for Joe to tap into some of this terrain that's up there that's just amazing. That I'm the kind of guy who's been going up there and like trespassing for years, but Joe's the kind of guy who gets like it legitimately done. So last year we had our first phase, which would have been about 4 miles, a little bit of cross-country trail, green to get people going, and then we used that for a NICA race. And then we built a blue uphill and then a downhill.
With some jumps. That's what we're looking at right here.
Yep. So
there's a section of that.
Yeah. So Chad Lindowski came in with Traction Trail Works, subcontracted a few guys. This little section right here was built by Jacob Link. Shout out.
You've also had Aaron Rogers from Rock Solid has been up here.
Yep. So Aaron and Rock Solid, which I'm super excited about this next phase. Going to build 3 downhill trails and 2 cross-country type trails up to the top of Telemark. This blue trail got us to the Canvas system, which was super cool because the Canvas system's an amazing 136 miles of wilderness,
amazing mountain bike trails, and point to point, and it's a real backwoods experience, a backcountry experience that you can't really. There's so many great mountain bike trails being built all around Wisconsin and the Midwest right now. Lots of modern, purpose-built, progressive float trails with features and all that sort of stuff. Awesome stuff, but you don't really feel like you can get lost and you're in the wilderness. The Canba trails have that vibe to them.
Yeah.
And they also have the old school single track, you know,
They do.
Handmade, hand built, leave the rocks.
Yep.
You know,
which is an art,
Yeah.
right? It's a lost art. Like I know that, you know, machine built flow trails, kind of what's happening right now, and kind of, but there's something really special about those.
all
old
my
trails.
old friends from like down in Decorah and stuff like that, the old crew single speed guys and stuff like that, they hate the flow stuff now,
Right,
you know,
right,
but they're all
right.
grumpy old men like me. So they love the old school trails like Canba has. And what I like, and Decorah's got some great trails like that too, but again, you're on the side of a hill and you can see town kind of like you're not gonna get
Right.
lost. There's a campground right there.
Right.
You know, so what I like about the Canba Trail is that backcountry experience. Even Marquette doesn't really have that for me. I love the Marquette trails, but again, you're really close
right,
to
right.
towns, to Marquette and all that, Ishpeming and stuff like you kind of like you're right. They're amazing resources
For
and
sure.
maybe
Fun trails.
maybe more miles than Canba has. I don't know how many miles they have. They have a lot. But and some pretty rocky, rooty stuff that we don't even have here.
But
yet.
if you were out at Rock Lake tonight and you went down and
Yeah.
you broke your leg, good chance you're going to die out there tonight, which is really cool.
no cell service,
No cell service, mosquitoes,
Yeah.
no way to crawl out. There's nowhere to crawl to.
right?
Right.
And you got to know where you are.
Yeah.
So Canba trails are awesome, but these new trails are
Way more gravity oriented, like sessionable.
the parking lot vibe where everybody
Yeah.
meets on Thursday night. You all know you're going to be there
Yeah.
and you hang out. The Berkey's also building a new Nordic center, so they're improving the ski network,
Yeah.
the network
Yep.
of ski trails. They've added a really cool paved roller ski.
Right, which is seeing all kinds of action from, you know, there's a woman on a walker a couple days ago. There's guys on e-bikes.
I'm not
there's,
much of a skier. I've only been seriously skiing since I moved up here in December of 2021. So I'm not very good yet. There's still lots of the Berkey Trail that I find too steep for me. I can't imagine skiing that, what is it, 10 feet?
That
The
plunge.
plunge on
Yeah,
a roller skis? I can't imagine.
I can ski. I'm not the best skier, but I can ski, and that is just Well, we went out on a bike a couple nights ago. We some of the guys from Rock Solid were up, and we rode a little section of trail, and then we just wanted to get the bugs off us. So we rode down that thing, and we were going like 40 miles an hour. I mean, it's sketchy, you know.
It's cool though. It's
is.
super cool. Yeah, it's super cool. So that whole Telemark Village project is the mountain bike trails are brought to us by Trek and OTM,
yeah.
but there's all kinds of other
it's going to be
the new home base
Yep.
upscale sort of Scandinavian design hostel that Dave Torek is building up there is almost done. So it's another new cool place for silent sports folks to stay. It's going to have Wi-Fi, basic accommodations. I mean, you're not in your hotel room very often, right? When you come up
That's
here.
the thing about that. That's the thing about the woods, and especially that mountain. It just has a allure.
Right.
You know, you're just drawn to go.
Yeah, you don't want to sit around your room when you come up here. So you need basic comfort. You want some place to charge your phone. You want a comfy, bed and maybe air conditioning and heat. But a community fire pit, a place to wash and wrench on your bike, all that stuff is going to be available. The Nordic Center is going to have like Backroads coffee and like beer and stuff like. But we're going to keep you up. TJ's heavily involved in the mountain bike angle of that stuff and works for the Berkey. So we're going to stay with us, following us on the Northwoods Ramble podcast, and we're going to keep having regular updates.
For sure.
Regular updates
sure.
on that. So I guess, I don't know, we've gone through just about everything on our list here. I guess maybe we've hit the top of the hill.
Yeah.
So TJ and I we're drinking a Earth Rider Pilsner. It's North Rider with a Y Pilsner from Earth Rider Beer up in Lake Superior. And this is a 5.6 ABV, 35 IBU, and I'll read their description because I love reading all these beer. I don't know. There's a whole, unless they're using AI for this, we should try AI beer description, right?
This would be a good career, right?
Yeah. The aroma is floral and spicy from the use of the German hops and rye malt. Bready malt character comes through in the flavor along with the citrus and spicy notes from the rye malt and hops. It finishes dry and crisp. I think it's a pretty good Pilsner. I am a big Pilsner fan. I usually like the Czech and German Pilsners.
Yep.
This has that flavor with still being a little bit lighter and less malty, I think.
Yeah.
So
So it was like a really warm day for today, right? It was like 80 some degrees. This hits the spot.
Yeah.
This hits the spot.
Right. So anyway, I think that's it for us for this episode of the Northwoods Ramble. Thanks for joining us. It's our first episode. I'm sure we'll have lots of improvements in the future. We've got a whole bunch of things I want to tell you about the history of Sealy and the riding in the area, and we'll be meeting some of our other characters, and maybe we'll move to some other locations. There's an amazing cool theater in the back of the Sawmill Saloon. It's really neat, and we're thinking about maybe doing a show from the back of the Sawmill Saloon, and maybe even doing it live, and having guests on the show, and or just locals come and watch.
No shortage of characters around here, that's for sure.
No shortage of characters at the Sawmill Saloon, where the men slick their hair with bar oil and the women use permethrin as perfume, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right.
All right. So with that, I think I'm going to let my buddy from Butternut, now Nashville, Hugh Robert Masterson, take us out and join us again on our Northwoods Ramble podcast. You got music? And I do. All right, we're out of here, TJ.